In 1991, a veteran railroad inspector vanished during a routine tunnel inspection in Pennsylvania. But 12 years later, when emergency crews break through sealed concrete, what they discover at the bottom of a flooded shaft exposes a truth that would destroy everything this small town believed about itself. Maggie Brown sets down her pruning shears and wipes soil from her weathered hands. At 58, she's spent the last 12 years tending to other people's gardens as the town's most trusted florist. The call comes on a Tuesday morning in 2003, just as she's arranging white lilies for the Jones funeral. "Ma'am, this is Detective Pat Torres with the Pennsylvania State Police. We need to speak with you about your brother, Thomas Brown." The lilies slip from her fingers. Tommy, her older brother who disappeared when she was 46, leaving behind a wife and 2 teenage sons. The brother who taught her to identify every tree and plant in Chester County before she turned 10. "We found something," the detective continues. "Can you come down to the station?" Thomas Brown was a methodical man. 23 years with Pennsylvania Railroad, never missed a day, never filed a single inaccurate report. On October 15, 1991, he drove his Ford pickup to inspect the abandoned Millfield Tunnel complex for final safety clearance before permanent sealing. The town's biggest development project hung in the balance. Tunnel View Estates, luxury homes built on top of an old rail tunnel, the most scenic location in the area. Local families would get construction jobs. Hartwell Construction stood to make millions. His wife, Christine, expected him home by 6 for their son Kevin's birthday dinner. The chocolate cake sat untouched on the kitchen table until midnight. By dawn, Christine had called the police. The search lasted 6 weeks. Bloodhounds traced his scent to the tunnel entrance, then lost it completely. His clipboard was found 200 yards inside, pages scattered by the wind. His yellow safety helmet sat near the main shaft. State police concluded he'd fallen into one of the deep natural shafts that riddled the inside of the tunnel network. The tunnel sealing proceeded on schedule that winter. Case closed. Christine Brown spent the next 2 years driving to Millfield every Sunday, parking where the tunnel entrances once stood. Now there was only a concrete wall and the old tunnel plaque. She'd sit in her car for hours, waiting for Tommy to emerge with that crooked smile and his thermos of black coffee. The town felt the loss deeply. Tommy had inspected every rail line in the county, knew every bridge and tunnel better than his own backyard. At Murphy's Tavern, men still saved his usual bar stool for months after the disappearance. Maggie watched her sister-in-law shrink with grief. Christine stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped believing her husband was coming home. When she died of heart disease in 1994, Maggie took in Tommy's boys, Kevin, then 19, and Danny, 16. Both carried their father's stubborn streak and their mother's broken heart. The years passed. Tunnel View Estates thrived above the sealed tunnels. Kevin became a carpenter. Danny joined the Army. They visited Maggie every Christmas, but nobody spoke Tommy's name aloud anymore. The wound had scarred over, thick and numb. March 2003. The structural failure happens on a Tuesday morning. Mrs. Miller is hanging laundry when her backyard suddenly drops 3 feet. The Kowalski house develops a crack that runs from foundation to roof. Emergency sirens wail through Tunnel View Estates. Mayor Richard Hartwell, now 64, surveys the damage with grim satisfaction. The sealed tunnels have finally given way, just as some pessimists had predicted years ago. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. Emergency structural engineers arrive on the scene. They need to assess every sealed access shaft for public safety. The neighborhood evacuates while crews work around the clock. Foreman Jake Pritchard guides his team to the most damaged area. His concrete saw screams through the cap of access shaft 7, revealing a dark void 40 feet down. "Bring the lights," Jake calls out, aiming his flashlight into the depths. The groundwater that once filled the shaft has drained away through the cave-in. At the bottom, something catches his beam. something that shouldn't be there. Detective Torres leads Maggie down the police station corridor, past evidence lockers and interview rooms that smell of stale coffee and desperation. In Room C, a metal table holds 4 clear plastic bags. "We found these with your brother's remains in access shaft 7 yesterday," Torres explains gently. Bag 1 contains fragments of an inspection logbook. Bag 2 holds fragments of a yellow safety coat, the fabric badly degraded, but the embroidered T-brown still barely visible. Bag 3 contains a Timex watch and a wallet with Tommy's driver's license still cracked but readable. Torres picks up the 4th bag. "Mrs. Brown, did your brother wear a hearing aid?" Maggie looks puzzled. "No, Tommy had perfect hearing. That's not his." The construction crew said this shaft was sealed with concrete in December 1991, Torres continues. But your brother's remains were found below the seal. The shaft was 40 feet deep, filled with groundwater. Standard procedure was to drop a rebar grid and pour concrete from surface level. The room tilts. Maggie grips the table edge, her florist's hands suddenly trembling. "You're saying someone put him down there before the sealing?" October 15, 1991, 3:30 p.m. Tommy Brown completes his inspection of the Millfield complex, his flashlight revealing what he suspected. The tunnel system is deteriorating rapidly. Water damage, structural collapse, foundation instability. His report will kill the biggest development project in Millfield's history. At the surface, Mayor Richard Hartwell waits beside his black Cadillac. At 52, Hartwell has served Millfield for 8 years, his construction company employing half the town. Tunnel View Estates represents his family's future, college tuition for his daughters, retirement security, legacy success. "Afternoon, Inspector. How's she looking down there?" Tommy doesn't sugarcoat it. The tunnels can't be safely sealed without massive structural work. His report will recommend either abandoning the entire project or backfilling and reinforcement. Hartwell's face remains pleasant, but something shifts behind his eyes. "Now, sir, that's quite a conclusion. Many local families are counting on this project." "I call them like I see them, Mayor." "Course you do. Mind if I show you a few things? I wouldn't mind your opinion." The conversation moves to the remote access shaft 7, away from the main work area. Hartwell knows the sealing schedule. This shaft is slated for capping first thing tomorrow morning. What happens next takes 17 minutes. The conversation escalates, voices rising near the remote access shaft 7. Tommy stands firm. His report will recommend abandoning the project entirely. Hartwell snaps. The confrontation turns physical. During the struggle, Tommy grabs at Hartwell's jacket, and Hartwell's hearing aid is knocked loose, falling between Tommy's work shirt and outer jacket as they grapple near the shaft opening. When it ends, Mayor Hartwell drives home to his wife and daughters, unaware that crucial evidence now lies 40 feet underwater with Tommy Brown's body. Detective Torres spreads the evidence photos across Maggie's kitchen table. The cave-in damage, the emergency shaft excavations, the logbook fragments indicate. Your brother's report would have killed the biggest development deal in Millfield's history, Torres explains. Richard Hartwell stood to lose everything. Maggie stares at the photo of the small hearing aid. Dick Hartwell? The town mayor? He created a scholarship fund in Tommy's name. The same Richard Hartwell who got fitted for a replacement hearing aid 1 week after your brother disappeared. Mrs. Brown, this device was found caught in your brother's work clothing. There's no innocent explanation for how the mayor's hearing aid ended up with a murder victim 40 feet underground. We traced the serial number on the hearing aid. It was registered to Mayor Richard Hartwell in 1989. And according to medical records, he got fitted for a replacement device on October 22, 1991, exactly 1 week after your brother disappeared. The pieces fall into place with sickening clarity. Hartwell had lost the hearing aid during the struggle, but didn't realize it until later. By then, it was too late, trapped with Tommy's body in a shaft that would be sealed forever by Hartwell's own construction crew. We believe Hartwell came to the site that afternoon expecting bad news. He'd been warned the tunnels were unstable, and he knew Tommy would write it up. But Hartwell's company had the sealing contract. He knew the shaft depths. And the one he picked for their conversation? Shaft 7, the same one scheduled to be capped the next morning. He brought Tommy there, pushed him in, and sealed him under 40 feet of groundwater and concrete. It wasn't an accident. It was containment. The arrest comes on a Thursday morning. Mayor Richard Hartwell, 64, is led from his colonial home in handcuffs, while neighbors gather on their porches, faces stunned and disbelieving. Maggie watches from her flower shop window as the news vans arrive. Millfield's respected leader, exposed after 12 years of living with murder on his conscience. A decade of town meetings and ribbon cuttings, all while Tommy's bones lay sealed beneath his own concrete. That evening, she drives to Tunnel View Estates. The damaged neighborhood sits behind yellow tape, houses evacuated due to structural instability. Tommy had been right. The tunnels were too dangerous for development. His death had allowed the project to proceed, and now families were homeless because his warnings never reached authorities. Kevin and Danny arrive separately. They stand together among the damaged homes, finally able to grieve properly. Their father didn't abandon them. He didn't fall into some unmapped hole and disappear like a ghost story. He died doing his job, protecting people from dangerous conditions, refusing to sign off on unsafe development even when it cost him everything. He would have saved these families, Kevin says quietly, gesturing at the evacuated houses. That report would have prevented all this. Maggie nods. Tommy's integrity killed him, but it also defined him. Even now, 12 years later, his stubborn honesty had brought justice while proving his professional judgment correct. The Tunnel View Estates development is permanently condemned. In her flower shop, Maggie arranges white lilies in Tommy's honor, flowers that will bloom each spring rooted in truth, growing toward the light.